Even as I say this to you, I can't believe I just played the Final Fantasy VII Remake for an entire afternoon. It's the sort of thing that 1, I didn't think Square Enix would ever greenlight in the first place, and 2, it's a childhood wish fulfillment prospect that even if the devs did give it a shot, it couldn't possibly match up to what the likes of me imagined. Oh, how wrong I was. While there's still quite some time until that 10th of April 2020 release date, everything I was able to play across 3 separate save files comprising the opening 10 chapters of the game was pretty damn incredible. Now, it's worth noting that gaming royalty Yoshinori Kitase and Kazushige Nojima, director and character designer on the original game respectively, mark just 2 of the few staff coming back onto the remake project. You can feel that mix of old and new in the final game, and it's resulted in tons of plot details being changed, cleaned up, or otherwise altered to give the best version of this canon yet. Final Fantasy VII Remake is being referred to more and more as a reimagining, and that couldn't be a more apt word. I'm Scott from WhatCulture.com, and this is Final Fantasy VII Remake, 9 major changes we couldn't believe. And note there will be some light plot spoilers within. Number 9, Sephiroth's reveal is totally different, ditches a major scene and build-up from the original. One of the most iconic and terrifying villains in gaming history, part of why Sephiroth makes such an impression in the first game comes from an immaculate build-up. Being mentioned multiple times by Cloud as something of a celebrity soldier that he aspires to imitate, various Shinra members discuss Sephiroth's abilities as perhaps too good. We even delve into full-on horror territory, and this is still without a visual, as a large sword is found sticking out of a side character's corpse, to which Cloud remarks that it belongs to Sephiroth. It's only a couple of hours after this, when the gang are in calm, that Cloud spills the details on his relationship to this now near-mythical figure, told through gameplay. In flashback, as Cloud narrates, you accompany Sephiroth on a mission, watching him down a fully grown dragon in one swing, doing thousands of points of HP damage and coming across as goddamn terrifying in the process. It cemented video game storytelling as something altogether more engaging thanks to how much your attacks had been doing to this point, and was the perfect introduction to the character in the flesh. Now though, Sephiroth turns up in Midgar, inside Cloud's head, after the first reactor goes up. They converse, Cloud takes a swing at him, and he's gone. I'll get to how this reframes Final Fantasy VII's narrative overall, but the fact that Sephiroth's reveal has been completely changed will no doubt divide fans. Number 8, that button-pushing sequence is now its own game mechanic. I have to quickly cover this because so many parts of the remake directly address things that pop culture or the main Final Fantasy VII fandom have discussed for the past 2 decades. One is Cloud firing a grappling hook to somewhat mitigate the velocity of his fall towards Aerith's church, and another is the godforsaken button-pushing minigame from the second reactor, now being even more fleshed out. Where this sequence became memorable for all the wrong reasons in 1997, now the remake fleshes out that mechanic into its own repeated minigame. Whilst I only got to play one of these sequences, the phrasing in their tutorial prompt made it sound like multiple reactors will culminate in the same minigame. Based around the idea of collecting keycards to affect the Airbuster boss's attacks before you fight, depending on how many components you've redirected using these cards, pulling levers will then result in a room of unlockables before the battle itself. How to unlock said room though, you'll have to control Barret and Cloud simultaneously as Tifa pulls levers that need matching. The twist is that this mechanic is also as precise and annoying timing-wise as the 1997 original, and it's clearly a callback to something that we all remember so vividly. Number 7, Summon Materia now available in Midgar. Summons have gone through many incarnations over the years, and in the original FF7 you're only given the Shiva summon in the town of Junon, some 8 to 10-ish hours in. In the remake, while I can't say if there's a specific explanation or something equally video gamey as a character producing it out of nowhere, Summon Materia is 100% a thing in the opening hours inside Midgar. I was given both Ifrit and Leviathan to play with, and summons in general play much like Final Fantasy XII, albeit without you controlling them directly. After summoning, the creature will fight alongside you. Ifrit, for example, towers over the party as he deals damage, and you can burn 1 or 2 parts of your ATB gauge to trigger special attacks. Once their energy is fully depleted though, that's when you get the 1997 style animations of the creature delivering their final blow. It's the best of both worlds. The animations and summons in general look incredible, and they're a great addition earlier on. Number 6, post-Midgar events are included. Okay, so here we're going to get into some plot description / light spoiler territory, so you have been warned. At time of recording, we have no idea how many parts the Final Fantasy VII Remake project will go on for. We know April's release will be spread over 2 discs and that it looks to end right when the party leave Midgar to explore the open world. Now, in the original, Midgar is only the first fifth of the whole game, if that, and the majority of the biggest plot points come once you've arrived at Nibelheim on the world map, Cloud and Tifa's hometown. Well, no more. In the remake, besides showing Cloud's headaches more clearly than just having text on screen, Cloud starts to remember the events of Nibelheim as Sephiroth is talking to him. All of this now takes place in the opening hour. Sephiroth appears and talks to Cloud on the streets of Midgar, like I mentioned before, recanting how he butchered Cloud's mother, another new addition, as Nibelheim is shown burning and the iconic Sephiroth standing in fire shot also plays out. This factors into the notion that Final Fantasy VII Remake is geared towards putting Cloud vs Sephiroth front and center, but for me it's not going to be as satisfying as the slower pace that we had before. There's also a scene where, upon hearing Tifa's name be mentioned inside the second reactor, Cloud begins to remember more events involving the Nibelheim reactor, and a certain pivotal scene involving her and her father now shows earlier. Both of these things make me think that the story is being reshuffled so that the vast majority of build-up happens in Midgar, as once we're out it'll be a chase to find Sephiroth and have that big final battle. Number 5. Combat is revolutionary. Live action meets turn-based. Onto something far more gameplay-based, as the new combat system feels like something Square Enix have been trying to get right ever since the first Kingdom Hearts. Where both Kingdom Hearts and something like Ni no Kuni have experimented with on-screen menus that have you D-padding your way through options in real time, whilst also fighting whatever comes your way, Final Fantasy VII Remake finally hybridizes the two in a supremely satisfying way. By making it so that you can either play in classic mode, turns being taken one by one as time slows to a crawl, there's also the full-on Devil May Cry-esque action that lets you pull off attacks using the face buttons, alongside specials by holding a shoulder button too. The best way to play is mesh the two together. Go all out and attack based on identifying weaknesses or triggering specials, then tap a button to freeze time, hopping across to the rest of your party to heal, use potions, issue commands, etc. I had a blast switching to Aerith and playing the healer from afar, keeping my AI buddy's health topped up while I waited to deploy limit breaks, summons, and energy blasts from a safe distance. You're essentially playing what all our minds imagined a battle from the original would look like in real time, and everything looks glorious. Number 4. Sephiroth's clones are now weird wraith ghost things. Covered in our wider look at the various story details that look to have changed that you can read over on WhatCulture.com, it looks like Sephiroth's clones are no longer hunched figures infesting Nibelheim. Instead, they show up as invisible specters, somewhat attacking or otherwise bothering Aerith when you first come across her, and they only dissipate after Cloud touches Aerith, allowing him to see them too. Point being, these creatures have been overhauled, and their role in the story will likely factor into Hojo's increased role in everything that's happening with Avalanche and the main crew. We've seen Hojo keeping an eye on the party remotely, and though I didn't see the mad scientist in my own hands on time, the Spectre, Wraith-like things were a key part of Cloud and Aerith's first interaction. Number 3. Shinra's involvement in the reactor detonation and the war with Wutai. Some more spoilers and one of the recontextualizations of something that was already hinted at in the original Final Fantasy VII. Well, it's a spoiler technically because it's a change from the original, but then it's not because it's the new story and me just telling you the story. I don't know if that's still a spoiler. Just freak out at your own leisure. On par with how much Sephiroth is being changed, the opening bombing run now ends completely differently, making it so although Jesse was planting a bomb to disable the reactor itself, Shinra go one further and blow the whole thing sky high. Why? To frame Avalanche as Wutai originating terrorists and enemies of Midgar, in an attempt to stoke another war. We see the Shinra-owned news networks brand Cloud and the gang as criminals, and this aspect of trusting the media when it's controlled by corporate interests is a brand new thematic element. Overhauling the nefarious Heidegger so he appears through drone swarm holograms as a slimmer, more menacing individual, taunting the team and speaking to the people is also a great touch. As for Wutai itself, the war against this isolated populace took place many years before the original game, but was fleshed out in 2007's Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. It's noted that this conflict is where Sephiroth became such a legendary soldier, where Zack cut his teeth as a member of Soldier, and where Cloud enters the picture as a combatant near its end. Bringing Wutai back into the picture ties Crisis Core directly into its main counterpart, is a brilliant way to expand on the corporate interests of the warmongering Shinra, and even gives someone like Yuffie a greater reason to oppose our heroes when she eventually steals their materia in the story. Number 2, boss battles are much more fleshed out. I've covered the supremely multifaceted combat, but the place where it all clicked was going up against the hulking bosses that Square Enix have redesigned for the remake. For the opening God Scorpion, no longer is it a simple fight where at some point you have to mitigate a tail laser attack. Instead, now the Scorpion comes at you in stages, leaping around the battlefield, sticking to walls and the ceiling, then gaining distance and charging its laser, which requires you to take cover. The iconic Airbuster duel is fleshed out through the keycard system I mentioned earlier, where you won't even fight it until you've had the opportunity to disable its most vicious attacks through a string of new areas. Once you're in that fight though, Cloud is once again separated from Barret and Tifa, but the Airbuster flies to different parts of the environment, keeping you on your toes as it splits its arms into separate targets. All told, the combat in these sequences is incredible. You're forced to engage with every attack and item at your disposal, using teamwork, weak spots, stagger animations, and everything in between to gain the upper hand. It's so much more than just pummeling a foe with your best moves, then healing when the counterattack comes. And number 1, the main thrust of the narrative is now Cloud versus Sephiroth. Maybe a result of Final Fantasy VII becoming the most pop culture of all the games in the series, but Final Fantasy VII Remake seems to be in a huge hurry to debut Sephiroth and get to the main event of Cloud versus his iconic nemesis. I've mentioned how this sidesteps the build-up that makes Sephiroth so incredible, but alongside the amount of headaches Cloud has, the fact the game visualizes this fractured sense of time so much, and how Sephiroth's voice infects Cloud constantly, it makes the thrust of Final Fantasy VII Remake the duel between the two. Now, yes, the original game did become this fight, this clash of the Master and the Apprentice. Cloud searching for his own identity, and how Sephiroth had a master plan that he was unraveling, one step ahead of you at all times. But it's worth noting that all the mystery of that original rollout is gone. Again, maybe this mainstream interpretation of Final Fantasy VII will still work a treat, but part of me wonders if the game's wider impact won't land quite so strongly without all those twists, turns, and expertly paced plot beats beforehand. At least that's what I think, having played for an afternoon of the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What are you looking forward to? Do any parts of this strike you in a more negative light? What do you think in general? For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com. Please check out the WhatCulture Gaming Podcast, and I'll catch you soon.